Excuse me, really? You look like a very respectable Muslim fellow with all your garb. Not really, fair enough.
He's a humble.
He's a humble guy.
Don't judge that man out of the way he's dressed.
You know what I mean?
Judge the book by its cover.
Don't, yeah, exactly. Guys, I want to ask a question.
I'm not qualified.
That's fine. But I think, all right, I want to ask you a question about the Quran.
Don't bottle it, lads. Have a discussion.
Yeah. Thank you, TNT.
Come on.
So, like, you believe as Muslims that the Quran is from God, that it's literally the words of Allah.
Everything from God.
Everything.
You are from God. I'm from God.
Okay, fair enough. But the Quran,
everything is around us from God.
fair enough. So the Quran specifically is from God. It's literally is
All the books, yes.
all the books.
All the books.
Okay, so inside the Quran, as I understand the Islamic position, the Quran is infallible, without error or contradiction. Is that fair? Am I misrepresenting the Islamic position? Fair enough, he doesn't want to talk.
It's passing.
Fair enough.
I'm passing. Don't
I'm just
overwork
asking you about your deen as Muslims.
me. As a Dini, yes.
I'm just asking you about your deen as Muslims. I want to make sure that I'm working from a correct premise. Is the Quran an infallible book? Is it? What?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course. It is an infallible book. Now, if I said to you that Muhammad, was born in Petra, you would say that that's historically wrong, correct?
Absolutely.
Why is it historically wrong?
Because it's in the wrong place.
It's in the wrong place. Why do we know it's in the wrong place?
That's what you told me.
Okay, let me...
That's what you told me.
Yeah, I want to help you. The reason why we know it would be the wrong place is because the historical documents are clear that Muhammad was born in Mecca.
Absolutely.
So you'd be arguing against the historical evidence, right? Right. So we've established a principle by which we can judge a truth claim or not. If I said that Muhammad was an Egyptian, would you say that's true or false?
Absolutely false.
Absolutely false. Why would you say it's absolutely false?
Because
Why is it not true?
this is not what the history says.
Because it's not what the history says. So we've established a principle. If I said that the Arabs, the Muslims, never had an empire, they never conquered their surrounding nations, would you say that's true or false?
Yeah, go on.
Is this a history lesson?
Right.
Go on.
So now, my point to you is, the man that a minute ago didn't want to speak, but now suddenly does.
No, I want to get the point. I don't want
Right.
to discuss. I'm not,
So what we've established,
yeah, I know.
what we've established, make sure that we can get in the feet. Yeah. So
Make sure you get his feet.
make sure we can get our feet. So what we've established is that if someone makes a truth claim about history and all the evidence contradicts that history, we have a reason to say whether something is true or false or not. So the Quran makes certain claims about history that are factually false. They are factually in error. And I'm going to give you one example. I'm just about to. Go on. I just want to make sure that you follow the line of argument that I'm making. Remember, when I said all those false things about Muhammad, you said it was wrong because it contradicted the known history. Well, the Quran makes claims that contradicts known history, and I'm going to share with you now. So, now, does anyone here know what happened to the Jewish temple?
What Jewish temple?
The Jewish temple, the first century Jewish temple.
Educator.
You are?
Educator.
It was destroyed
By who?
Where about?
by the Romans
Where?
in 70 AD.
Where? In Palestine?
In Israel, yeah.
Palestine.
Yeah, in Israel.
Palestine.
Palestine. Palestine.
So, now, it says in the Quran that Muhammad went to visit the farthest mosque. Explain to me, how could there be a mosque in Jerusalem before the Muslims conquered Jerusalem?
Sorry?
You weren't paying attention. Maybe you can answer.
No, go repeat it so you can share it.
You heard the question.
Yeah, but go on.
No, you heard the question.
Please, no, I do it because I want them to share it with me.
He's not going to talk.
No, he will.
No, bro.
He will talk.
Bro, just answer the question.
He will talk.
We're all together.
Some weird
Okay,
piece.
let me ask this brother, since he's the only one that wants to answer the question. The Quran says, glory to Allah, who did take his servant for a journey by night from the sacred mosque to the farthest mosque, whose precincts we did bless. How could there be a mosque in Jerusalem before the Muslims conquered Jerusalem? It didn't exist. There was no mosque.
It exists in the Malik time.
Hold on a second. The temple was for the Jews? Temple of the Jews? I know.
The temple,
Yes.
the temple belonged to the Jewish people. It was a Jewish faith. It was built by Herod.
There's no such thing as called Jewish. Israelites.
Whatever you want to term them as.
Israelites, yes.
Whatever you want to term them as. Just because I don't want to get caught up on pedantics, let's call them Israelites.
Israelites, yes.
So they had the temple. The temple was destroyed in 70 AD. There was no religious building in Jerusalem at the site that you now know as the Dome of the Mosque. That mosque in Jerusalem, the one that Muhammad journeyed to. There was no such building, but the Quran says that there was. That is a historical error par excellence. How does an infallible book talk about something factually false? I think the silence speaks for itself.
We're just fasting, we don't want to waste our time.
You don't want to waste your time, you just
We
want to
don't wanna
stand
get
here
hit
and
with
listen to
your
me.
books.
You just want to stand here and listen
We're
to me.
protecting ourselves.
Fair enough.
We just want to hear your fairy tales, so carry on, it's entertaining.
Fair enough, fair
It's
enough.
killing time.
Yeah, killing time.
Go on, keep
So answer me. What was the building that was being referred to?
Do you have another story for us?
Do you not want to answer the question about
I just want to listen like I told you. But
Tell
go
me.
on, tell us another story.
Tell me, what was the building that was being referred to in this passage?
Again, if you ain't got a story, I'm going to go find a story elsewhere. Do you have another story for us?
No, not for you. Not for you. So notice, they don't have an answer. The Quran says something that is factually false. It speaks about a building that does not exist. It says that there was a mosque in Jerusalem. No such building existed. It is historically in error. That's the first one. Let's find some more Muslims. Let's ask them about other historical errors in the Quran. Hi guys, I hear you listening to me. I'm taking a guess, I might be wrong. Oh, are you Muslims? Are you Muslim? Yes, there's another historical error. Nope.
Did you speak about the Al-Aqsa Mosque? Just not to interrupt you for too long.
Yes.
Did you talk about the date and time of the building of Al-Aqsa Mosque and the mosque in Mecca?
The Alaska Mosque was built after the time of the conquest of Jerusalem.
Okay. In the first...
It was within the first generation. They conquered Jerusalem and then they built a mosque. But the fact of the matter is that no such mosque existed at the time that Muhammad was supposedly going there. And the Quran says he visited a mosque. It doesn't say that he visited a temple.
I was going to give you a reference to the Hadith, but I have to take time to check it out.
That's
but
fine.
They asked Muhammad in the Hadith, and this can be verified, and so I might send it to you guys. It says, they asked the Prophet Muhammad, which was the first mosque? And he said, Al-Aqsa Mosque. And he said, which was the second mosque? And I think he referred to the mosque in Mecca.
Right.
I can't remember the name of it. I don't want to say. Then he said that, what was the distance of time between the building of both mosques? He said 40 years.
Right.
So that is why I wanted to bring this up. So
Well, that's a massive historical contradiction.
I'll get the reference now.
Send it to JC. So the fact of the matter is, if Muslims are saying that this is an infallible book, why does it get its history wrong? Did God not know his history? If he knew his history, why is he making such historical blunders? Saying that there was a mosque in Jerusalem is like saying that there was a Walmart in 1st century Rome. You wouldn't say that there was a Walmart in 1st century Rome, so why does Allah say that there's a mosque in Jerusalem? But it gets worse, and I just want to find some Muslim to speak to about how worse it gets.
What's the definition of mosque?
So,
What's the definition of mosque?
a place of worship.
Yeah. Well, a place of worship. You know what's a place of worship defined in the Islamic way?
It's a okay. How would you define it?
No. Define mosque mean anywhere.
A mosque is a place where Allah is worshipped.
No, it's God is worshipped. It's not
Allah.
No, God.
Allah.
You're a dictator.
Who's God?
You're a dictator.
Who's God?
Allah.
Your God or my God?
It's for everybody.
They're not the same.
No, God of
They're not the same. Yahweh and Allah of Muhammad are not the same. Yahweh and Allah are not the same.
Listen, man, you know what I mean? You're not an educated person. Because if you know, the literature, if you go to university, first speaking a word, when you're talking a word, you have to explain it technically or linguistically. You can't mix that between Arab language and English language.
So you don't like my definition?
No, you're not educated.
So what's your definition?
It's not my definition.
What's your definition?
Scholars' definition.
What is your definition of it?
You can listen.
Yeah.
You want to discuss with me, discuss.
Yeah.
If you want to just dictate on me, I don't like it, you know what I mean? I'm coming from St. Augustine, ancestor, who teach you a Catholic in your country.
Okay, what's your definition?
Definition what?
A mosque.
A mosque, a place, any place.
Yes,
any place,
yes.
You know, where Muslims pray to God.
Right, okay, did you hear that? You just said that a mosque is a place where God is worshipped, any place where God is worshipped. When Muhammad went on his night journey to Jerusalem, where was this place of worship that he went to? What? Petra.
What's mean Petra?
By Jordan. Amman, Jordan.
I don't know where exactly Petra. How do you know?
In the Quran, but in the Quran.
Is that Petra? He mentioned Petra.
Yeah,
In the Quran, he mentioned Petra. Go back.
Bro, I'm asking you. 1 second. I agree. There's 1 second. Where did Muhammad go?
He said, they said somewhere.
I'm asking you clearly.
Somewhere.
A simple question.
I'm trying to translate from Arabic.
Where did he go?
It's like Masjid Aqsa. Aqsa, you mean?
Aqsa Mosque.
Aqsa Mosque.
In where?
Somewhere in Jerusalem.
Right. Do you actually know, right, where that mosque is? Do you know it? Do you know where the location of that mosque
I
is?
haven't been there. I'm not from there.
Right. It's considered to be on the Temple Mount. No, I'm just talking about general knowledge.
Yeah, okay.
Al-Aqsa Mosque is generally thought to be on the Temple Mount.
Who's that the Temple Mount?
That's just commonly known, sir.
No, it's not coming along.
Maybe not to you.
Yeah, that's not.
Maybe not to
that's
you.
You invented.
Well, Google fact check me.
Google is not. It's not.
Fact check me then. Fact check me. So, what I'm saying is, bro.
I have to learn to educate yourself.
No, because here's the thing that you're not listening to.
Because you're saying that common knowledge.
It is common knowledge. You just don't know it.
I study philosophy.
You just don't know it.
I study philosophy.
Okay.
I'm a pragmatist guy.
Sir, are you a Muslim?
Excuse me?
I'm asking you if you're a Muslim.
Well, I'm talking about Islam now.
Right, you
I'm
could.
theologian and philosopher. Religious philosopher.
Right.
I'm Muslim. You know the.
Thank you.
You know, you know the father. You know who unites this civilization of the West. Even a Muslim from North Africa.
Do you believe this book is infallible?
Sorry?
Do you believe this?
Me now. I mean, push me. Can you talk about a place about worship in Islam?
Yes.
I mean,
There is a mosque that has been referred to in Surah 17. Using your definition. Using your definition. Your definition is a place where God is worshipped. So which place did Muhammad go to in Jerusalem?
Anywhere someone doing.
The Al-Aqsa Mosque is meant to be on the Temple Mount.
What's your point? I mean, I don't understand the way you
Well, if you'd actually stop interrupting, you might get to my point, but you keep interrupting.
You're preaching. You're not lecturing. You're not discussing.
Because you just jumped in and you're just interrupting, sir. So, let's be clear. Muslims themselves say that Alaska Mosque is on the Temple Mount.
Listen,
That building did not exist at the time of Muhammad. So which building did he go to?
You're not educated. I'm telling you the front of that. That's guy, I'm not education. You are there, like, go to university, do theology, that thing, come back and you don't have these class.
So answer my question.
You don't have definitions. You don't have definitions because
So answer my
We
question.
have it here for you. I'm just waiting
What's
for you.
this?
It shows you the distance of
He's not
time,
educated,
which
right?
mosque was
He said
made,
Allah's not God.
40-year period between them.
Okay.
Allah's
Keep
not God.
scrolling because they've got
So,
the screens there.
okay, so basically, Brother Yaqub, once again, with his knowledge of hadith, has just made the Muslim position even worse. Because Sahih al-Muslim 520, Book 5, Hadith 1, Book 4, Hadith 1056, okay, says this. Abu Dar reported, I said, Messenger of Allah, which mosque was set up first on earth? He said, Al-Masjid Al-Haram, the sacred, that's the one in
Where's
Mecca.
Masjid Haram?
I again said, then which next? He said, it was the Masjid
Al-Aqsa.
Aqsa, thank you. I again said, how long the space of time between their setting up? He, the Holy Prophet, said, it was 40 years.
40 years.
What does it mean?
That contradicts
What does it mean?
everything
What
we
does it
know
mean?
about
What does it mean?
history.
What does it mean?
Everything.
What does it
The
mean?
first temple of Solomon was set up. The first temple of Solomon was set up over 1,000 years ago. Which means that there was a city called Mecca with a mosque over 1,000 years before Christ. Over 1,000 years before Christ. It's contradicting everything we know about history. I study history, sir. I study history.
It's a contradiction.
No, the contradiction is that your prophet has just said, yes, certainly, your prophet has just said that a mosque was built in Mecca 1,000 years before Christ, and that another mosque was then built in Jerusalem. Where is the evidence?
Okay, I'll ask you this question.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?
History. Is it history?
Oh, he's back.
History.
I have another question for you. I got another story. I got another story for you.
Is it history?
Another fable from your Quran.
Is it history? Exact science?
Exact in the sense of a physical science.
Bob, you've done it twice. Bob, you've done it twice, Bob.
Listen, when you have logic, you have to have something to start from. You have to be absolute. You started because you didn't have university.
Oh, you can actually address the
I'm
argument.
asking you about
Address the argument. Okay, you can insult me as much as you like, but address the argument. Was there a mosque in Mecca 1,000 years before Christ, yes or no?
If it said so, it's yes, because it's a prophet.
Right.
You're not.
The evidence contradicts you.
Nothing to do.
The evidence contradicts you.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?
The evidence contradicts you. Where are the first records of Mecca being talked about?
Which evidence you talk about? Past
Where are
evidence.
the first evidences of Mecca being talked
The
about?
evidence. It's not a point for me, my class.
Where?
It doesn't matter.
Where?
It doesn't matter.
Right?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's
You
right.
want to ask me about Quran?
Yes.
Why would you ask me?
Because I'm asking, you might be a Muslim.
No.
Do you notice the guy just called me a racist? I'm a racist because I criticize their Quran, and in his logic that makes me a racist. Leon, does that make me a racist? Teacher just nod your angers.
You know why I'm making racist?
Why am I a
You're not
racist?
educated. You're not.
Oh,
you're not.
so a
You're
racist is
ignorant.
someone who's not educated.
Yeah, same like you.
I see.
Tell us what
I
you know
see.
about Quran. Let's see.
So,
maybe it will be
Look at
something
yourself,
interesting.
right?
Let's look at another example of the errors of the Quran. The historical errors of the Quran. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand up if you know the first references to chainmail. You know that armour, the armour that people wear of rings of steel bound together. When and where was it invented? It was invented by the Persians around the 6th century BC.
You do not pronunciation. You do not pronounce a word.
Some people try to argue. Some people try to argue that chainmail was invented by the Celts.
No, if you look in the Quran,
But
it says Solomon.
we have examples. Okay, guys, I'm going to step that way a bit. If you want to listen to me, follow me. If you want to listen to them, stay here.
Go back to school, mate.
So, we have examples of Macedonians, Celts, and Persians and Romans all using chainmail. Our earliest evidence of chainmail existing comes from the Persian Empire around the 6th or 7th century. King David lived 1,000 years before Christ. The Persians were 600 or 700 years before Christ. My numbers may be slightly off, I'm doing this from memory. However, you can check to see if what I'm saying is true. Google me now to find out what was the earliest reference to chainmail. And you will see that it was before King David. At the time of King David, the armor that was used was plate armor supplemented by thick leather armor. That is a historical fact. A historical fact that this so-called infallible book gets entirely wrong. It gets it entirely wrong. Because this book was written in the 7th century AD by a man familiar with chainmail, but who did not know the history of antiquity and the history of the Bronze Age. So, what I am referring to, listen carefully.
Listen carefully, this one.
This is in the Quran, Surah 34, Ayah 10 and Ayah 11, as translated by a Muslim linguist called Yusuf Ali. So this is a Muslim translation of their own holy book.
Yes.
And it says the following.
I have got English translation.
We bestowed grace aforetime on David. On who? On who? Speak up, brother. On who? Speak up. On who? David. From ourselves. O you mountains, sing ye back the praise of Allah with him, and ye birds also, and we made the iron soft for him, commanding, listen carefully, make thou coats of mail, balancing well, rings of chain armor. A very lucid, a very clear description of chainmail ascribed to David hundreds of years before chainmail ever existed. You don't believe me, O Muslims? Go and check my facts. The Quran gets it wrong. The Quran is in error. The Quran gets its history
is all
Wrong.
brainwashing.
You not talk like
They want
No.
men to be like a sheep.
Why
Their
as a
followers.
Christian?
my father.
You have no
Why
history.
as a
No
Christian
evidence of your God.
am I pointing this out?
Your God was killed.
Why don't I talk about
Jesus was
Christianity?
I hear it's not
Was
Well,
murdered.
my father.
I do talk about Christianity all the time. However, Muslims in the park often spend their time attacking the Christian faith, which invites me as a Christian to attack the Quran. Now, Muslims say, not Christians, Muslims say that this book is perfect in every way,
Why your book is not perfect.
without
And their book is
contradicting
not perfect.
history
All full of
or science.
horrible errors.
So when
All your books,
the Quran
the Bible
contradicts
and the Quran
history,
are full of so many.
it is
crazy
fair
mistakes.
for me to point out that error.
You have to be fair. Don't just
To point
condemn
out
the book
the
of the
fact
Muslims. You
that
have
the
to condemn
Quran
your book as well.
gets its
You
history
have
wrong.
no evidence whatsoever.
And if it
Your
gets its
religion
history
is
wrong,
is not true one.
then the Muslims
It's false.
who say that this
Your
book is
Jesus was
perfect
murdered.
have now a good reason not to believe.
You believe what?
Not to believe.
You are,
No,
you were,
sir.
You were a bunch of criminals.
Do
used
you
to
have
cut the truth
anything
of
to say about the
anyone against
argument?
you. All the churches, they still now. I'm glad it's only when people they like to celebrate, then they have to do and still going down. Church is still going. Only foreigners.
Nothing.
Who they,
He's got nothing to say
No English.
about the
How
error
could you
of the
believe?
Quran.
Believe what? Believe what?
Come, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So the error is this, sir.
What about Christianity?
King David, you know who David was?
David, there was a.
I'm going to. The error is this. King David lived 1,000 years before Christ. Chainmail was invented
David
700 years before Christ. In other words, hundreds of years after David lived. But the Quran contradicts history, because the Quran says this. Listen carefully. We bestowed grace aforetime on David. Who are we talking about? Say it again. Shout like you've got a pair. Who? David. So who are we talking about? David. O ye mountains, sing ye back praise of Allah with him, and ye birds, and we made the iron soft for him. Commanding who? Who's being commanded? David is being commanded. Make thou coats of mail, balancing well, rings of chain armor. That's chainmail armor. Chainmail armor did not exist at the time of David. Muhammad got his history wrong. Why did Muhammad get his history wrong? He got his history wrong
and Mark, he was Roman.
because he lived in the 7th century. In the 7th century, chainmail was everywhere. Everyone was using chainmail. Everybody knew about chainmail. 1 second. Muhammad didn't know his history. Muhammad didn't know his history.
Well, you're
Sir, do you want to talk about this
I
passage?
want to talk about you as a Christian, because you claim to be a very good Christian. Let's analyze Christianity. Let's see what Christianity says today.
His response is not to talk about the argument.
You get salvation through believing in
Is
Jesus
there
Christ.
anyone
1 second.
that wants to talk about the argument?
You claim salvation is through
Sir,
Jesus Christ,
go on.
crucifixion.
Come closer, I can't hear you, sir. So the chapter and verse is this. Surah 34, Ayah 10 and Ayah 11. Go and tell the Dawah team the same thing when they talk about Christianity. It's amazing how they live by double standards.
That's our prophet.
Have you got it, sir? I take it you're reading it in Arabic, yeah?
I'm reading the commentary as well.
The commentary, okay. So, let me ask you this question, sir. If I said, for instance, if I said that Islam started in Pakistan, right? If I said that, how would you go about proving that I was wrong? That's not a proof, sir, that's just a statement. How would you, if I said, for the sake of argument, if I said, and I know it's wrong, but if I said Islam started in Pakistan, not Arabia, how would you go about proving that I'm an ignoramus that got it wrong? What would you do? Facts and evidence. What kind of, fine, what kind of facts and evidence? Historical facts and evidence, right?
And geographical.
And geographical, yes, exactly. So you would look at sources, you would see how they correspond to geography, and you would look at artifacts, and you would triangulate those three things to conclude that if Bob said that Islam started in Pakistan, that Bob was an ignoramus because he said something that all the evidence contradicts. So, I already did, you just weren't listening. So, if Muhammad says that chainmail was around at the time of King David, and all the evidence contradicts the Quran, why is it that you suddenly abandon the principle that you established to refute me if I say Islam starts in Pakistan, but when that same principle contradicts Muhammad, you won't go along with the evidence? Evidence, sir. I'm going to give you the evidence. All documents of antiquity show that our earliest possible date for the invention of chainmail is in the Persian period. The Persian period, the Persian Empire. Chainmail. It's a kind of armour, sir. It's linking small rings of steel together. And we see it in ancient statues. They depict it in art, they chisel it into statues. We have references to it in historical documents, like Herodotus. In his histories, he talks about it. The Persians, in their history, talk about it. But at the time of King David, which is 1,000 years BC, history has no evidence of chainmail existing at that time. Zero, nada, nothing, not a drop of evidence. All the evidence shows it came later. Thus, when the Quran says that chainmail existed at the time of David, it is like me saying that Islam originated from Pakistan. There is no evidence for either statement. The Quran is wrong. Fact. It is in error. Fact. Now, if the evidence... 1 second, sir. I will let you respond. If the Quran is in error, then according to the Quran, which says if this were from any other than Allah, I would find many errors therein, because it's a challenge given to non-believers, not believers. I should not be able to find this error, and I do. Let this uncle go first because he's...
It's more about whether you believe the Quran is right or wrong. Do you accept it's a book of faith?
I accept it as a book of faith.
So would you respect as a book of faith, and people who follow that faith and stood around you probably don't appreciate you waving it around and banging it against your chest?
But this is a translation, so it's not actually the Arabic Quran.
Okay, so what you've said is taken from that. So if that's not actually the Quran, and what you're saying is taken from that, how are we supposed to believe what you're saying?
Because it's a translation by a Muslim linguist.
Okay, so it is the Quran. It's the word of, we believe that it's a word of God.
Well, you need to argue that with the Dawah team, because they're quite persistent in saying that it only exists in Arabic.
It's about respect, that's all I'm saying. I mean, what you're saying, freedom of speech, all that, I'll give you that. I'm not saying whether you're right, whether you're wrong or anything. All I'm saying is respect is not about factual and non-factual. It's just about, there's a lot of Muslims around here, and even as a non-Muslim, you know, if someone was stood here as a book of faith, I'm a Muslim. I wouldn't dare wave the Bible, whether it's translated in a completely different language or not.
Actually, go speak to Lamin then. Go speak to some of your Muslim brothers who do exactly the same, and they put the Bible on the floor. Go and speak to them.
Okay, no, about respect. Okay, regardless of, so what you're saying is because they do it.
With respect, sir, I've heard your point. Uncle, what did you want to say?
I think your comparison is wrong about the armor, geographical, historical fact.
Yeah.
Armor is a small thing, which could exist, could not exist, and the information about it could be right or wrong. The information you're getting from various books would be not reliable. So I think this is completely out of place.
Well, I think that the comparison is a fair one, because what it illustrates is that... Uncle, allow me to...
Hold on 1 minute. The grave of Prophet Muhammad, say, for example, it existed in India, and you say, no, it's in, you know, he was in Africa or far away. These kind of things could give some evidence, but like armor and clothing and shoes, this is
allow me to reply, Uncle.
Serious stuff.
Let me just reply to this, Uncle, and then I'll talk to you. So, the problem, the issue is this, Uncle. If you say something that is factually false about a historical event, and all the evidence of history contradicts you, it is fair to say that statement is false.
It's not the only...
Allow me to reply, Uncle. If the Quran makes a statement about history that is factually false, it is fair to say the Quran got it wrong. But if Muslims are saying that the Quran can get nothing wrong, because if it got anything wrong, it wasn't from Allah, then by Muslims' own standards, every Muslim has a good reason now not to believe in the Quran. And that is a fair argument. It's fair because it employs a principle that works in all directions. It's fair because it does not misrepresent or mischaracterize the Muslim position. And it is fair because it's dealing with a very clear verse. I'll read it again. This is Allah speaking to David. Make thou coats of mail, balancing well, rings of chain armor. That is a clear description of chainmail. Chainmail did not exist at the time of David. Muhammad got it wrong. Why? Because in the 7th century chainmail was commonly used everywhere. He saw it used everywhere, and he just assumed that people had been using it back at the time of David, and he got it wrong, because they weren't. The Persians invented chainmail. Arguably, the Celts invented chainmail. But either way, they all came after David. The Quran is just in error. You, sir.
Bob, so you're a Christian, right?
Yes.
I've got 2 questions really for you. One,
is it about this?
Yeah, it's about this.
Okay, fair enough.
One, if you're a Christian, why do you not come here and preach your religion to everyone and let them know about your religion?
Let me answer that question first then. So firstly, I do often, and I've just had it on camera, over an hour's worth of conversation about Christianity. So that's the first thing, you're corrected. Secondly, I find it strange that people come up to Christians and say, why are you attacking Islam? Shouldn't you preach Christianity? But he's never appeared on a single video going up to Shamsi, Hashim or Mansour and saying to them, why don't you preach Islam and not attack Christianity?
Who's attacking Christianity?
There is a double standard.
Who's attacking Christianity?
Mansour, Hashim and
Where
Shamsi.
are they? I'll go and speak to them now.
Yeah, go and speak to them.
I'll go and speak to them.
I guarantee Hashim will be doing it right now. What was your second question?
You come and show me who they are, and I'll say the same thing to them.
What was your second question?
Why do you feel the need to get at other people's religion?
Okay, so why do I tackle other people's religions? Simple. Because as Christians, we are instructed by the apostles to demolish every thought that sets itself up against, I'm answering your question, be patient, sets itself up in opposition to the gospel. We are instructed as Christians to use polemics and apologetics as part of evangelism. Also, many Muslims in the first instance are not willing to entertain the claims of the Christian faith until you have demonstrated the falsity of Islam first. And finally, the Muslims in the corner attack the Christian faith. Put your hand up if you've heard a Muslim as spending their time attacking the Christian faith. It's not just me telling you, all of these people are telling you, and Banks is an atheist, so no one's lying to you.
Been walking around. So maybe I missed the conversation.
Maybe you're selective in what you hear. So the point of the matter is, if Muslims can attack Christianity, why can Christians not attack Islam?
I'm not saying that you can't.
Thank you.
I'm not saying that you can't, but I'm just saying, don't you think if you wanted to convert people to your religion, surely the best way about it would be to come down here and, you know, spread some love rather than spreading hate? Because that's
why is it hate?
Because when you insult people,
why am I insulting by criticism?
Well, if you say something about, listen, I'm no religion, so you can't offend me by anything you say.
Fine.
But if you start talking about someone's so-called prophet,
you mean like the Dawah team?
Then they're going to be offended by that.
You mean like the Dawah team?
That's hate.
So are the Dawah team guilty of hate speech?
I'll go over there now and I'll speak to them.
Go ahead.
If they're preaching,
I want to see on camera.
If they've got the Bible in their hand and they're saying this and this and this, then I'll go over there and I'll say to them, why are you not preaching your religion?
Yeah, go and speak to them. I'll give you a list.
I've only come down here and I've only seen extremist Christians. I haven't seen any extremist Muslims yet.
So I think you're selective in what you're seeing. Because all of these people, including an atheist, have all contradicted you. Yeah? Have all another atheist. Oh, sorry, sir. All of these people. Let's just do it again, because maybe he's not convinced. If you have seen Muslims attacking the Christian faith, raise your hand. Raise your hand, Raul.
Just ask them about the Trinity.
Raise your hand. Right? Brother, everyone is contradicting you. The narrative that you are presenting here.
I just said I never heard it for myself, so I'm not saying you're lying. Right? I never said you're lying.
No, hold on one second. I want to tackle.
I said I never heard it.
I want to tackle another fallacy that you've just laid at my door.
Go on.
We've blown apart his first fallacy.
What? You never blown
that Christians are attacking Islam, but Muslims are not attacking Christianity. Let's dismiss your second fallacy.
Go on.
Why is a criticism of a book, do you know the legal definition of hate speech?
No, what's the legal definition?
You don't know the legal definition of hate speech.
What's the legal definition?
The legal definition of hate speech is to incite violence against someone because of something like their race or their religion. How is pointing out a historical... One second, I haven't finished asking my question.
I know what you're going to say.
No, let me finish asking my question. How is pointing out a blatant historical error in the Quran fitting to that definition?
Because I never said you're actually doing hate speech.
Did he not just say that?
I didn't say that. No.
Did you hear him say, why are you doing hate speech?
I said they're gonna hate that you're talking about it. I never said.
That's not what you said. You've changed what you've said.
They'll be able to
It's
watch
on
it
camera.
back. They'll be able to watch it back.
Everyone put the time sequence in so he can hear his own words.
Just rewind it back. Yeah, and listen to what I actually said.
Yeah,
and
we heard what you said.
What I said. I never said.
We've got witnesses. Did you hear him say that I was preaching hate speech? Yes. So everyone's contradicting you again.
I said you were preaching hate speech.
That's what you said.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when you're talking about people's profits, they're gonna hate that. They're not gonna like that. So that's
hate. Not hate speech.
That's hate.
That's not hate speech.
It might not be hate speech as a legal term, but that's hate speech.
It's not hate speech.
At the end of the day,
So I'm not particularly fond of those sandals. They kind of offend me. Are you hate speeching against me with those sandals?
No, but that's a hate speech what you just said.
No, because
you're hating on my sandals.
Okay, guys.
And now I'm upset that you're hating on my sandals. Why are you hating on my sandals?
Guys, the risk that is happening in our society, and it is a real risk that you all have to take seriously, is that hate speech is being used to shut down freedom of speech. It is being used to close down freedom of speech. And it is being used to delegitimize speech. It is a rhetoric that is taking away your freedoms. And also, it is being confused with subjective feelings. He might feel offended that I as a Christian criticize Islam, but not offended that Muslims are doing the same thing, though he probably has heard them doing that.
No, you're lying now. Now you're
probably
lying.
has.
Now you're lying.
I'm saying
now
you probably have.
You're lying.
I'm saying you
because
probably
at the end of the day,
have.
you're just assuming.
I'm
assuming
saying you probably
that
have.
I'm taking sides.
I
don't take no sides.
I think you are.
I think you're all wrong.
No, you didn't actually address this question.
I want you to do one thing for me.
Yeah.
You're Muslim.
No.
Are you not Muslim?
No.
Guys.
Okay, who's a
guys.
Muslim here?
Okay, if you want to listen to these two talk, stay here. If you want to listen to me talk, I'm going to take a step over there.
Go on, Bob. See you later.
Follow me if you want to talk.
See you later, Bob.
I'm just going to ask him a question.
See you later, Bob. See you later, Bob.
Who here's the
Since the last time you were in the park.
It's a translation of the Quran.
We have seen you become extremely cultural-like with that
The guy, ladies and gentlemen, the Quran has historical errors within it. It says that there was a mosque in Jerusalem in the 7th century. That is a lie. It says that David had chainmail. That is a lie. These are errors in the Quran, a supposed book that is without error. I'll give you an okay, it's a fair question. Right. Maybe it is more accurate to say that it's an error. Do you believe the Quran has any errors in it? No. Right. Do you know, sir, when chainmail was invented? Do you know what chainmail is? Sorry? No. Chainmail is a form of armor. It's a form of armor created by linking rings of steel together. Okay? We know when it was invented. We know where it was invented. The earliest records of it go back to the Persians. They came hundreds of years after David. You know who David is in the Quran? Who is David? Thank you. Okay. When did David live? A long time. His exact dates are 1,000 years before Christ. The Persians came hundreds of years after David was born and died. The Quran says this: we bestowed grace aforetime on David, in singing back the praises of Allah with him, and ye birds also, and we made him the iron soft for him, commanding Listen to the next bit. Make thou coats of mail, balancing well, rings of chain armor. Would you agree that is a description of chain mail?
Did you know that
you would agree? So the Quran has said that something exists historically before all the evidence shows its existence. Thus, the Quran is in error. Can the Quran be in error? So if all the evidence contradicts the Quran, okay, so the Muslim, and he's totally entitled to this position, says, I will believe by faith that the Quran is correct, even if it contradicts the evidence. Now let me show you how he won't work to that principle. If I said to you, sir, that Islam started in Pakistan and not Arabia, how would you prove me wrong? He would show me what? There you go. He would appeal to historical evidence. So, when I make a false claim about Islam, he would rightfully appeal to historical evidence to show that I was wrong. And he's correct to do so. But if I show a historical error in the Quran, rather than believe the historical evidence that contradicts the Quran, he says, I will believe the Quran against the evidence. That, sir, is cognitive disconnect. You apply one principle to deal with one thing and a different principle to deal with a different thing when their category is the same. They're both historical statements. Now, why is this important? It's important because Muslims make the claim that this Quran is without error. The Quran itself says, if this was from any other than Allah, disbelievers like me would find errors in the Quran. Lo and behold, I do. Lo and behold, by the standard of the Quran is false. Therefore, by the Quran's own standard, it is not true. And if something is not true, you don't need to believe in it. Why am I, as a Christian, criticizing the Quran? It is because many Muslims here in the park spend their entire day criticizing the Bible. And I think it's fair, if Muslims will criticize the Bible, I can criticize the Quran. But here's the difference. Here's the difference. We Christians do not make the same claims about our Bible that Muslims make about their Quran. Christians believe that our book appeared in history. Muslims believe the Quran is eternal. Christians believe our books were created. Muslims believe that the book was uncreated. Christians believe that our book was given to men. God inspired them. He elevated their mind, their reasoning, and their perception to know what was important to God in history and what God was doing. But they were writing man's words in the Bible, inspired by the Holy Spirit. Men's words. Men's words are fallible. Christians readily admit to and do not deny that there are difficult passages in the New Testament. All the Old Testament, shortly, sir, yes. Yes, certainly, shortly. However, we have a restricted understanding of what the Bible is in terms of its infallibility. Questions of doctrine and workings of righteousness, moral and doctrine teaching. By contrast, Muslims claim for this book that it does not make any errors at all. None, zero, nada, zip, not in history, not in science, not in doctrine. So when the Quran is contradicted by all the historical evidence, you have a choice. You can either do as this gentleman did and say, I am a Muslim, I'll believe anyway what the Quran says despite the evidence, or you can follow where the evidence leads you, and the evidence leads you out of Islam and away from this Quran. Your reply, sir.
Okay, my reply. I just want to say one couple of things. Firstly, if you look around the world, the Quran is one.
No, it isn't.
It's not one single change from one from Mauritius, one from South Africa, one from America. There is nothing wrong. Why? It's because it's written in Fusha, in the Arabiya. And in the Arabiya, it's exactly the same. Forget translation. Forget translation. Let's see where Isa alayhi salam is from. Isa alayhi salam is Jesus. He's Jesus. Isa is Aramaic. Isa is Aramaic.
The Arab Christians translate the name of Jesus in their
There is no J. There is an illness of J's. There is an illness of J's within the name. There is no different Quran. Inside the Bible, I want to ask you one question. Why is there one version for Roman Catholics and a different version for other people? There are so many different versions of Bibles out there. There are groups of people who sit and rewrite the Bible and edit the Bible. That has never happened from the day the Bible was.
Can I reply? Okay, let me reply. Let me reply. So the question is, why do Catholics and Protestants have different Bibles? The answer is a simple one, really simple. They don't agree about which book should be in the Bible. Protestants and Catholics have a disagreement about which book should be in the Bible. Let me reply. In exactly the same way that Muslims disagree about which hadiths to believe. The Sunni and the Shia use different hadiths. No. One second, I'm still replying to him. Don't be rude. Raul, stop feeding the... Raul, discipline. So, the brother made another point. He said every Quran in the world was the same, and he repeated the same thing. That is factually not true.
Wash Quran.
It's factually not true. If you compare the Hafs Quran, to the Wash Quran, they're different. They're different in their diacritical marks, and their diacritical marks affect the consonants, because at least 22 of 28 Arabic letters cannot be distinguished except by the diacritical marks. But one second, I have not finished. Last point. So, it gets worse. Dr. Daniel Brubaker has recently, this very week, released a doctorate study. Brother, have the courtesy to listen to an answer. Just bad manners. Just bad manners. Just bad manners. So, Dr. Daniel Brubaker has recently released a study of the oldest manuscripts of the Quran. These are the Topkapi, the Samarkand, the Sinai, the Husseini manuscript in Egypt, the Petropolitan manuscript in Paris, and the Millet manuscript in the British Library. These are recognized as the oldest copies of the Quran, and he has noted that they have textual variants to the 1924 edition of the Quran. The brother is simply wrong in every way in saying that every Quran is the same. It's just not true.
Can I know what's the Bible? Let me go across about the differences. There's halves, there's different words, there's different types of dialects. When you go to the north of England, somebody might say to you glass. When you come to the south of England, somebody might say to you glass. Does that make it different? No, it's just a matter of dialect, it's just a matter of accent. If you're coming from north, it's different to south. So when you're actually having people reading the Quran, it's in different variants. It's due to the accents that they have come with, but the meaning does not change. So the words are the same.
The Roman Catholic Bible.
Can I reply? Let me reply to this brother. Is it my turn to reply? I don't want to interrupt him. Okay. So his argument was that these textual variants...
Not textual variants.
Allow me to... Sir, stop interrupting.
Sir, I did not say that.
Yeah,
sir,
you interrupted.
I am not interrupting because I said it's to do with linguistics.
If you would actually let me finish, allow me to reply without interruption. So, if you can constrain yourselves and listen to the full sentence, you will realize that you were not mischaracterized. But you did not restrict yourself, and so you did not hear what I had to say.
Sorry about that.
So now discipline your heart. Now, his argument is that these textual variants are nothing but dialect accent, like glass and gloss. Now, firstly, that is not what a dialectical difference is. A dialectical difference is something akin to saying tunnel and gentle. That's a dialectical difference. He's talking about accents, not dialectical differences.
Is the meaning the same?
Don't interrupt.
Is the meaning the same?
Don't interrupt. However, the kind of textual variance we are talking about is the difference between saying tree and trees. Now tell me, sir, is a plural the same as a singular? No. So if we have in these textual variants the same word, but one is singular and another plural, are they the same? No.
But
thank you.
Linguistically, let me tell you guys linguistically. Yes, in the Quran, our Lord, Rabbana, our Lord says, we are this, we are that. It's linguistically respectful. When you speak to someone, when I speak to an elder, I will address him in my language in plurality. Why will I address him plurality? Because it's respectful. It's respectful. I will not call an elder from anything other than respect. Now in the languages there are different ways of respecting people. In the language of Arabiya, in the language of Fusha, the way to respect somebody is to call them into the plurality. Now the other thing I want to say is, for clearly we have been told وإن الله ربي وربكم فاعبدوا هذا صراط المستقيم. And Isa alayhi salam, Jesus as you call him, said, peace upon him, said, and indeed Allah is my Lord and your Lord, so worship him. And inside the Bible, the original Bible, the untouched Bibles that you can tell.
I want to see on camera.
That actually go on. I clearly tell you that when Jesus said, he did not say, worship me, I am the Lord. He said, I will worship the Lord. I worship the Lord. He went down onto his knees and face.
Can I reply?
As we do 5 times a day.
Can I reply? Okay, so notice he wants to get off the topic of the textual variants. He wants to change the topic now about, oh, we Muslims are more like Jesus than you are. Despite the fact that Jesus prayed towards Jerusalem and kept the Sabbath and the Muslims don't. Anyway, that aside, let's get back to the topic. He has admitted that a plural is not the same as a singular. And there are examples between the Hafs and the Wash Quran where the same word appears in the Hafs as a singular and then appears in the Wash as a plural. Thus, they are not the same. Thus, my original statement is true, and his original statement that they are all the same and there is only one Quran is false. But here's another example for you. Is the word owner the same as the word king? No. Well, there's a passage in the Quran where the Hafs says king and the what? Yes, he knows it.
Of course.
He knows it. So, is every owner a king and is every king an owner? Yes, they are.
In your linguistically, no. What you got to realize when he's speaking about God, he is the King of Kings. If you speak about the owner, he is the owner of all owners.
But they're not the same thing.
He's above everything.
But they're not the same thing.
When you are translating it into English, into any other language, it loses the essence.
No, we're not talking about translation. We're talking about the Arabic. One Arabic says owner and another Arabic says king. That is a textual variant. That is a textual variant. They are not the same thing.
That is the accent.
What is the academic? No, it is not. Wait. Oh no, don't let him get away, brother. He's just said, listen to this. Listen to this. He has just said that the word owner and the word king is an accent. They're not accent differences. That's a different word. One is owner and one is king. They are not the same word. And every academic will tell you that that is a textual variant. That is the very definition of a textual variant. Do you know what a textual variant is? What is a textual variant?
When they differ.
What differs? What differs? What?
The pronunciation.
Let me give a more accurate definition of a textual variant. A textual variant is when you have multiple manuscripts containing the same text, in this example the Quran, and those manuscripts have different words or letters. That is the academic definition of a textual variant. If you have two texts, two manuscripts that are taught, that have different words, you cannot say they are the same. That is a lie. And you certainly can't say that the word owner and the word king are the same word. And you're aware of them.
For him, he is owner of the two worlds. What are the two worlds? Rabbul Alameen. He is owner of this world and the world in the hereafter, where there will be hell and there will be heaven, where we will be questioned. He is also the king of these two worlds. So in contextual wise, if you say, okay, there's a variance, the meaning is not different. So if you want to, okay, I'll agree to you. You saying in
your... the way you have nursed that B, by the way, is a wonderful example of gentleness.
You have to be. You have to be.
And I just want to applaud. It's a wonderful example.
You have to. But what we're going to is, we have the Quran. We have what it says inside of it. Yes, there are words, there are differences, and yes, I agree to what you're saying. Owner and king is totally different.
Thank you.
I totally agree to that. But what we are trying to get to is not just the words, but to reflect upon what it's talking about. If he is the owner, Maliki Yawmiddin, he is the owner of the religion, he is the king of the religion. At the same time, for Allah, it does not matter, because he is for everything. God is in charge of everything. He created everything, whether he is owner of all the creations or whether he's owner, king of all the creations.
May I reply? So, do you remember at the very beginning of our discussion on the text of the Quran that you said that there is one Quran and they are all the same?
Yes.
Now that we've talked about it some more, are you still saying that all the Qurans are the same?
Yes.
Right. There you go. Cognitive dissonance.
It's not cognitive dissonance.
You have accepted,
because you in the Quran.
You have accepted a textual variant exists, but then you're saying it's the same.
It is written the same.
It's not.
It's the person with this different accent that says it differently. It is written the same.
So it's not the same word.
So no.
Is Maliki the same as Malik?
Maliki, but the thing is, you got to go back to the history of how the people spoke at that time.
It's a straight question. Is Maliki the same as Malik?
Maliki? Maliki is the same as Malik.
I'm not Arab, it's not my first language, so obviously you'll have to make allowances for the mispronunciation.
Malik.
Are they the same word? Are they the same word?
They're two different words?
Two different words.
As you say, from written, but in written, it's not.
Right. What you
it's
know.
the accent.
No.
No,
that's not an accent.
Why can't we? It is the accent.
An accent.
Why can't we talk about northerners and southerners? Why do southerners go and say glass, pass?
Right.
Why do northerners go and say the same word? Pass.
Allow me to address that point. Because you are profoundly confusing the question of accents with textual variants. Let me explain why. You are using the let me explain why. You are using the example of glass and gloss to try and explain the way that one version of the Quran says king and another version of the Quran says owner. That is not an equivalent comparison. An equivalent comparison, would be an example I'll use from the Bible, where we have textual variants and we readily talk about them, where one says, referring to Jesus, he, and another one says, Jesus. Those are two different words. They are a textual variant. Right? Now, pronoun and a name are not the same thing, even if they're referring to the same person. That is the kind of example that we've got when we talk about king and owner. And now we Christians are honest, because our religion is not built on the book emerges from our religion, that we don't have a problem with these textual variants. It doesn't matter a jot to me as a Christian. One second, bro. It doesn't matter a jot to me as a Christian whether the Bible says he or Jesus. They're talking about that. They're talking about it. And we Christians have never, ever, ever claimed that the Bible has been perfectly preserved and there is only one Quran in existence. But you have. And the evidence contradicts you, because we can see clearly there are multiple Qurans, and not just in terms of the Hafs and the Wash, but when you compare the ancient Qurans to the 1924 edition, there are corrections to the ancient text.
I will agree with you, there are corrections. There are corrections in the Quran. But what I am trying to tell you, when the Arabs of the old, they actually wrote the Quran, if you look at the letters, they have dots.
Yes.
They have like, in the olden times, there were no dots.
Correct.
Like for example, the letter Sh, it's a circle with 3 dots right now.
Yeah.
And the letters is just the same as the Sh, but without the 3 dots. In the olden times, there were no dots. This is an innovation of the newer times for people to distinguish between the letters.
Thank you.
There's a word that's been inserted into the
What time coming?
Yes.
What time?
Actual words. Actual Allah. in the Husseini manuscript, honestly, bro, she's correct. She's correct. So, well done, sister. Absolutely.
I agree with you. Yes, you say Husseini manuscript. You say the Shia. Shia never existed in the time of the Prophet.
They added the name Allah
Shia never
12
existed.
times to the Husseini manuscript.
Ilahim in Hebrew.
Can I just point out
something? In Hebrew you say Ilahim.
Brother, can I just point out something? The manuscripts that were investigated by Dr. Daniel Brubaker are your earliest manuscripts. You don't have earlier ones to look at. Okay? They are your earliest. And they were written before the implementation of the diacritical marks. So they were written before vowelization of the text. Now, they demonstrate the fact that those texts had erasures. Do you know what an erasure is in textual criticism?
No, go on.
An erasure is when a word is there and then someone comes along and scrapes it away. Okay? So there's examples where someone has come and written a word and then someone later has come and removed a word. There's example of tapeovers. Do you know what a tapeover is?
Someone's written over something else?
No. Well, yes, sometimes. So a tapeover is when you have a series of words that you want to get out. You want to splot it out. It's the ancient equivalent of Tipex. You put manuscript over the top of it. It's just blank, and it blots it out. Now sometimes those erasures are written over, which means that at some point in Islamic history somebody thought that the Quran should include some words that then other Muslims thought no, those words shouldn't be there, and they corrected the text.
Should I tell you why I think it's still not true?
Go on.
Because from the starting, even if there's written and everything like that, people at the starting were not writing, they would pass it on by the word of
mouth.
Yes. Totally agree? So
I'll
when
come to that.
Okay. And yeah, the Chinese whisper and all that comes along. But why is it that the Quran that is found in Iceland, forget the written part, but what he says is the same as the one found?
This is a claim that can never be proved. Let me explain.
There are so many people.
This is a myth.
Okay, there are so many people who have.
They can never prove this claim.
Why Osman burned the Quran?
This claim. I'm going to. Bro, you're stealing my thunder. Stop stealing my thunder. You're stealing my thunder. Bro, I understand the claim. It's a recitation and it's remembered. Right? But you've got to understand, objectively, this claim can never be tested. Right? The only way that you could prove that every recitation is the same is if you stuck every reciter in a room or recorded every reciter and then did a scientific analysis to see that all the recitations were the same.
I have been to South Africa, I've recited, it's the same as they've recited.
Doesn't make any difference. It is not proof.
I totally agree from the scientific point of view.
It is not proof. It is a claim, but it cannot be verified.
I totally agree with you on that point, that scientific proof, it cannot be proved.
Right, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Because Adnan's bursting to break into this conversation. So let me ask you this question. Yeah? In the earliest stage of Islam, why did the Quran become codified? What prompted the codification of the Quran into a manuscript text?
So for people who were able to write at that time, for people to send it?
No, that's not true. According to your own hadiths, the reason why Uthman was prompted by his generals to codify the text of the Quran was because Muslims were fighting one another about its recitation. In other words, the idea of simply reciting the Quran failed. The first Muslims couldn't agree, and that prompted the earliest Muslims to have it codified into a text. Now, 1 second. I'm taking it you're a Muslim? Yes. You tried to learn the recitation of the Quran, of course. When you, as a student, tried to learn the recitation of the Quran, do you just listen and repeat, or do you listen, read and repeat?
I listen, I read and I repeat.
Exactly. And do you think that human beings in the past were any different?
No, but I've also learned stuff by just listening and repeating.
Yeah, but in terms of the Quranic recitation, let's be clear. It is impossible for a human being simply to learn through recitation. And it is demonstrated by the fact that that very effort that the Muslims genuinely tried to do in the first century failed. And that's why you had to have a text to help people recite the Quran. But here's the problem. I don't know if you know the hadiths. One of the hadiths state that Uthman said to Zayd bin Thabit, who was the secretary of Muhammad, that if you are in dispute about how something should be written, write it in the dialect of the Quraysh. Yeah? Now, how scripturally do you demonstrate dialects in Arabic script?
By different ways. I understand where you're coming from.
No. I want you to answer this question. Because if you don't, I'll answer it for you.
Don't answer it.
Scripturally, how do you demonstrate the script of Arabic?
By the way it's written?
Yes, but what specifically? What helps you to pinpoint this dialect and not dialect?
The connotations on it, different.
The dots, right. At the time of Uthman, Kufic Arabic did not have dots. So why does the hadith talk about something that didn't exist at the time of Muhammad? I'll tell you why. It's because the hadith wasn't created at the time of Muhammad, it was created after the time of Muhammad, and it was created by Muslims who were aware of diacritical marks because they had been put into the text. And those Muslims did not know that at the time of Muhammad there were no diacritical marks. And so they put into the words of Uthman and his generals words that they never uttered. And these hadiths are called Sahih. Your religion is based upon a myth. Your book is full of errors. Your Quran has been changed. It is time to find a better God, sir.
That God is
the Christian faith. Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob.
The God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, the God of Moses.
Yes, that
God of David.
That God. The God of John the Baptist. The God of Jesus Christ. The God of all the prophets.
The God of all the prophets
Messiah.
Is also the God of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Well, all the evidence would seem to suggest otherwise, and we've just talked about that in Greenland. Anyway, so you're a very pleasant man. You have a lovely day. I really encourage you to think about what you've heard today.
Thank you, Adi.
Okay? And then if you want to come back and next time we talk, if you want to spend an hour talking about Christianity, I'll gladly do that with you.
I just want to finally just go away by saying, as I said in the Quran, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ رَبُّكُمْ وَرَبِّي فَاعْبُدُوا هَذَا صِرَاطُ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. And Isa alayhi salam never ever called himself God, never once.
I can show you that in a minute. But it's not the conversation.
I know the it all converts to accept this religion.
I am going to go.
But that's what I'm going to say at the end.
I'll just reply to that point, and then I'm going to go.
Okay.
Okay? In the Quran, Allah has 99 names, doesn't he? Yeah, he does, doesn't he? 99 names.
Yeah.
Right.
Attribution to him,
Yeah. And these are his names, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of those 99 names is that Allah is the first and the last, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's two names of Allah. I'm going to show you where Jesus calls himself the first and the last. Because you just said a lie. Not because you're lying, but because you have been lied
to me in English.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Translation, there's an illness of translation. Not one language can be translated.
Bro, before you make up excuses, at least listen to the evidence.
I'm going to listen, and I'm going to, before you read this,
bro,
one second.
One second. You just said that Jesus never called himself God. That's what you said. I am going to show you, not only does he call himself God, but he calls himself your God by using the names your God uses. And the real question is not whether Jesus calls himself God. The real question is, he's not even listening. Why does Allah steal the divine names of Jesus? Listen to this. This is Jesus speaking. I, Jesus, have sent my angel. He's the one speaking. This is what he says before that. Behold, I am coming quickly. My reward is with me to render every man according to what he has done. I am the Alpha, the Omega, the first and the last. That is Al-Awwal and Al-Akhir. Those are the names of Allah that appear in the Quran. So now let me ask you one quick question. Why does Muhammad take the divine names of Jesus and attribute them to Allah?
Then let me answer that with your question. Why did Jesus need to be born?
So,
why did he have to go through the dirt and the dust and
That's changing the subject.
Changing the subject.
It's not changing the subject.
Changing the subject.
Always they returning the question by the question.
Okay, bro, I said I would show you where Jesus called himself God. I've done that. It is up to you now whether you accept what you saw in the Bible or you accept the lies that Zakir Naik, Ahmadidat, Hashim, and all these other people are saying to you in the masjid.
I will never, ever in my life testify to anything.
May I ask you what
but
shahada
that.
means in Arabic? By Arabic, can you try?
Okay, let's do a wrap up for those that want to hear
What
the wrap up.
shahada means?
So, what we've seen is this. Muslims make claims about their Quran that open the Quran to investigation and falsification. If you say that your text is not in error in any way, and then people find errors in your text, then that is good grounds to dismiss your texts. A claim that we do not make in a similar fashion to our own. The Quran gets its history wrong. It says that a mosque exists where a mosque doesn't exist. It says that a mosque was built at a time when no mosque was built, according to the hadith. It says that chainmail was created by a man who could not possibly invented chainmail. Muslims claim that their Quran has never been changed. All the evidence contradicts that. Comparisons between the halves and the wash, owner and king. Comparisons of the ancient manuscripts, the Samarkand, the Topkapi, the Petropolitan, the Mial, to the 1924 version, demonstrate changes to the text. At every point where Muslims make a claim about their Quran, that claim collapses in the face of evidence. The claim, the central claim of Christianity is that Christ rose from the dead. And that claim has been challenged for over a millennia, and the evidence continues to mount up on our side, not against us. I invite you, if you're a Muslim, not to make a jump of faith, but to follow the evidence. The evidence contradicts your religion. Go with the evidence, leave Islam. Look again at the Christian faith, look again at the Christian claims and weigh them up. Not by what Muslims say about our claims in the masjid, not by what Zakir Naik says or Ahmadidat, but by speaking to knowledgeable Christians and learning our faith from us. I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Have a lovely day. Christus Anestasin.